Hi, welcome to Chapter 7 of the Kids Connection. I'm Pam.
And I'm Jim. Let's do our number verse.
Okay, let's go.
It starts like this. One is the sun that shines so bright. One is the moon so high. One is the day. One is the night. One is the sheltering sky. Two are the eyes with which I see. Two are the ears that hear. Joy and sorrow both live in me. So do courage and fear.
Okay, let's do it with our friends at home.
Excellent. One is the sun that shines so bright. One is the moon so high. One is the day. One is the night. One is the sheltering sky. Two are the eyes with which I see. Two are the ears that hear. Joy and sorrow both live in me. So do courage and fear.
That's a little bit tricky, isn't it, to remember all of that? But I think if we keep repeating it, you're going to get it.
Cool. Let's do some clapping games.
Okay, do you remember England, Ireland?
Excellent. England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. Inside, outside, donkeys' tails.
Great.
Do it again, maybe quietly to ourselves. That'll be fun. Excellent.
Cool. We have another one that we did before.
Peas porridge hot.
Let's do it.
All right. Peas porridge hot. Peas porridge cold. Peas porridge in the pot, 9 days old. Some like it hot. Some like it cold. Some like it in the pot, 9 days old.
Now let's do it
good.
quietly again so you can hear the rhythm. Ready? You can do it with us.
Hey.
That was great.
I love that.
You have a pretty tricky one for us to learn.
We have a new one. And this is from Japan. And it has to do with making rice cakes.
Oh.
Rice cakes. And in Japan, that's something they do for the new year. And making them and eating them is considered good luck for them.
Oh, sort of like pork and sauerkraut in Pennsylvania Dutch country.
Yeah, it's a special thing. And it has a lot of funny sounding words in it because they're Japanese and they're new to us. But they all have to do with the sounds of making rice cake.
Okay, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to go through the whole thing today, and then we're going to learn the first part, and then next time we'll learn the second part, and then the third part. So you'll learn it over time. So don't get scared because it's a little tricky.
Yeah, and just have fun listening.
Okay, so we're going to start with the
We'll
just the
start
words and just the first
the
motion.
words. And the motion we make is, this is like pounding. They use something that's like a hammer. It's called a mortar. And it comes down and it hits the rice cake and it flattens it. So that's why we're doing this motion. We're flattening the rice cake.
So the bottom arm stays still and the top arm comes down.
Comes down like a hammer, yeah.
Okay.
It goes like this. Omochio suki macho. Omochio suki macho. Petanko, petanko. Petan, petan, petanko. Hiko te. Hiko te. Hiko hiko te. Tan, 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 ten, tan. Tan, 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 ten, tan. Tan, ten, tan, ten, tan, ten, tan.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to teach you the first part.
Okay.
And I'm going to be the mortar that comes down.
And this is part of the fun of it, is I'll be clapping around her, trying not to get hit by her hands.
Okay? So it starts out Omochio.
Suki macho.
Okay, here we go.
All right, here we go. Omochio suki macho. Omochio suki macho. Petanko, petanko. Petan, petan, petanko. Hiko te. Hiko te. Hiko te. Tan, 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 ten, tan. Tan, 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 ten, tan. Tan, ten, tan, ten, tan, ten, tan.
Wow. That's pretty fancy, right? So we're going to go back and we're going to teach you the first part.
Yeah.
So that you can do it with your friend, all right?
Yeah, just the first part. Okay. Omochio sukimasho. Omochio sukimasho.
You see how that is?
Above and below. All right.
So next time we're going to add the little fancier parts in, and over the next couple weeks you'll get to learn to do all of it. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
So we also have some nursery rhymes that we've done in the past, and we're going to review Baa Baa Black Sheep. Baa Baa Black Sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full. 1 for my master and 1 for my dame. 1 for the little boy who lives down the lane. Baa Baa Black Sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full. Now you sing it with me. Are you ready? Baa Baa Black Sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full. 1 for my master, 1 for my dame. 1 for the little boy who lives down the lane. Baa Baa Black Sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full. Now, if you remember last time, we did a little marching song about going on a pirate ship.
Oh, I like this one. Get ready to march.
Are you ready, Jim?
I'm ready.
Ready? When I was 2, I buckled my shoe the day I went to sea. I jumped aboard a pirate ship and the captain said to me, we're going this way, that way, forwards and backwards, over the Irish Sea. Now you sing it with us. Are you ready? Get your marchers ready. When I was 2, I buckled my shoe the day I went to sea. I jumped aboard a pirate ship and the captain said to me, we're going this way, that way, forwards and backwards, over the Irish Sea. Remember our verse about doing our best?
Let's say it.
Okay.
There lives in me an image of all that I can be. Until I have become it, my heart is never free.
Okay, let's say this again at home, because it's really important to try to think about ourselves and doing our best.
There lives in me an image of all that I can be. Until I have become it, my heart is never free.
So do you remember last time we told a story in chapter 6 about a little girl who was very good at math? Her name was Katherine Johnson. And when she was little, she counted everything. And she also liked lines and curves and angles and shapes. And as she grew older, her teachers in school saw that she had a special gift for math and something called geometry. And so she impressed everyone so much that she was able to skip through grades very quickly. By the time she was 10 years old, which is normally 5th grade, she was going to high school. And by the time that she was 18, instead of entering college, she had already graduated. She was so amazing. She became a teacher. And then she had children and she stayed home with them, and her husband became ill. And because he became ill, she had to go back to work. And she found out that there was a place called NASA. NASA was a special organization that helped send astronauts into outer space and eventually to the moon. And so Katherine went there, and at that time they were hiring women who were very smart and women who were black, which seems like a very strange thing, but back then, if you were a black person, you weren't considered oftentimes for some of those jobs. And so it was mostly, and women weren't either actually, and so it was mostly white men that were working there. Well, because she could count and add so well, she became what was called a human computer. She could add things very well and very accurately. And so after she'd been working there a while with these other women, she decided that she was very interested in learning more about what these guys were doing, working on sending astronauts into outer space. And so she asked if she could come to some of their meetings. And at the meetings, she started to realize that she could do so much more to help them. And they started to recognize her amazing talent. And so she came to work at NASA with teams of men, helping figure out mathematical equations would help so that people could safely go into outer space and come back to Earth. And eventually she helped to send an astronaut to the moon. And so that was really exciting. Then, when she got older and retired, President Obama gave her the Medal of Freedom because she was such an important part of the space work that was being done at NASA. Then, she lived to be 101 years old, which is really quite old for anyone, and she only died this past February in 2020. So she was an amazing person with an amazing talent, and there's a special movie about her called Hidden Figures. You might want to ask your moms and dads about that. So that was our story last week. Today, we have some interesting, fun news stories. If you remember, a few chapters ago, our friend Pooh introduced his new friend, who is Paris the Panther. And Paris, if you remember, likes stories. He likes to hear stories and tell stories. He's very smart, and he likes to think about ideas. So today, Paris is going to introduce us to a few of his other friends, and they're going to tell us 3 stories, and they're going to pretend they're going to be actors in the stories. So let me show you his first friend to introduce. This is Freddy the Ferret. And Freddy has a lot of energy, and he likes to play and have fun. So he's a great playmate for Paris the Panther, and he's very excited to be part of the stories. There's another friend that Paris has, and her name is Vicki the Vicuna. Now, you may never not have heard of a vicuna, but a vicuna is a very delicate type of a llama or alpaca that lives in Peru. And so she came to visit. Paris met her and decided that they could be great friends. What you need to know about Vicki is she has a lot of ideas too, but she wants to do things her way. She's very excited. But she's decided that today she's going to play along and let Paris sort of direct the stories. And then we have one more new friend, and this is Sue Ellen the Sheltie. Sue Ellen is a very kind dog, and she really worries about her friends, and she wants them to be well. So she cares a lot for them, and she likes to cooperate. So she's going to come along on this ride. And today our four new friends, Paris, Freddy, Vicki, and Sue Ellen, are going to act out some stories for us. So the 3 stories that Paris wants to play today about are called Aesop's Fables. Aesop was a guy who wrote these little stories that sort of helped kids learn lessons and learn about how things work in the world. And so they're interesting little stories. The first one is about 2 mice, one from the city and one from the country. And both Paris and Freddy have decided that they're going to be the mice. So they're going to pretend to be the mice in the story. All right? So here we go.
The City Mouse and the Country Mouse. A city mouse once visited a relative who lived in the country. For lunch, the country mouse served wheat stalks, roots, and acorns with a dash of cold water for drink. The city mouse ate very sparingly, nibbling a little of this and a little of that, and by her manner, making it very plain that she ate the simple food only to be polite. After the meal, the friends had a long talk, or rather, the city mouse talked about her life in the city while the country mouse listened. Then they went to bed in a cozy nest in the hedgerow and slept in quiet and comfort until morning. In her sleep, the country mouse dreamed she was a city mouse with all the luxuries and delights of city life that her friend had described for her. So the next day, when the city mouse asked the country mouse to go home with her to the city, she gladly said yes. When they reached the mansion in which the city mouse lived, they found on the table in the dining room the leavings of a very fine banquet. There were sweetmeats and jellies, pastries, delicious cheeses. Indeed, the most tempting foods that a mouse can imagine. But just as the country mouse was about to nibble a dainty bit of pastry, she heard a cat mew loudly and scratch at the door. In great fear, the mice scurried to a hiding place, where they lay quite still for a long time, hardly daring to breathe. When at last they ventured back to the feast, the door opened suddenly, and in came the servants to clear the table, followed by the house dog. The country mouse stopped in the city mouse's den only long enough to pick up her carpet bag and umbrella. "You may have luxuries and dainties that I have not," she said as she hurried away, "but I prefer my plain food and simple life in the country, with the peace and security that go with it."
For this story, Vicki and Freddy are pretending to be goats. This is a story about two mountain goats. And if you know anything about goats in the mountains, they can go in very high, steep, scary places without losing their footing. It's a pretty amazing thing to see. So they're up here in the mountains, and they came across a deep ravine, which is a place where if you fall into, things will not go well for you.
Two goats, frisking gaily on the rocky steeps of a mountain valley, chanced to meet, one on each side of a deep chasm through which poured a mighty mountain torrent. The trunk of a fallen tree formed the only means of crossing the chasm, and on this, not even two squirrels could have passed each other in safety. The narrow path would have made the bravest tremble. Not so our goats. Their pride would not permit either to stand aside for the other. One set her foot on the log. The other did likewise. In the middle, they met horn to horn. Neither would give way, and so they both fell, to be swept away by the roaring torrent below.
The next story is about a mouse and a lion. Paris is pretending to be a lion, even though he's a panther. And Freddy is said to Paris, "Hey, instead of pretending to be a mouse, I made a little mouse out of paper. Do you think I could use this little mouse?" And Paris said, "Sure, you can."
A lion lay asleep in the forest, his great head resting on his paws. A timid little mouse came upon him unexpectedly, and in her fright and haste to get away, ran across the lion's nose. Roused from his nap, the lion laid his huge paw angrily on the tiny creature to kill her. "Spare me," begged the poor mouse. "Please let me go, and someday I will surely repay you." The lion was much amused to think that a mouse could ever help him. But he was generous and finally let the mouse go. Some days later, while stalking his prey in the forest, the lion was caught in the toils of a hunter's net. Unable to free himself, he filled the forest with his angry roaring. The mouse knew the voice and quickly found the lion struggling in the net. Running to one of the great ropes that bound him, she gnawed it until it parted, and soon the lion was free. "You laughed when I said I would repay you," said the mouse. "Now you see that even a mouse can help a lion."
Paris said that was really fun. He liked those stories and he thought they were interesting. Vicki said it was fun to play the cat in the story about the city mouse and the country mouse. But she was a little confused as to why the country mouse, who was played by Freddy, didn't really want to live in the city because she thinks cities are fun. But Freddy said that the reason that the other mouse wanted to go home to the country because that's where he grew up and that's where he felt the most comfortable. And so different people are comfortable in different places. Oh, Sue Ellen said it was also funny about the part when she like bounding in to sort of scare the mice, and that she thought that was, but she was worried a little bit that it was a little too scary. No, Freddy said it wasn't. They were just playing, so it didn't really. He wasn't really scared. He just pretended to be scared. Oh, yeah. So Paris is saying like that was pretty interesting watching the two goats want to fight each other. Neither would get off, and so they both lost their lives. Yeah, Paris said that wasn't very wise. He thinks that people should think hard about when they do things, that maybe they should think about the consequences before they become so stubborn. Oh, Sue Ellen was watching the story in which Freddy used a mouse. She thought that was clever, the way that he made a mouse and then he used the mouse instead of playing himself, because it would have been hard for him to be a mouse underneath the paw of a panther. But since they were just pretending, they made a paper mouse, and then, yeah, Paris said that was sort of silly, the way that a mouse thought it could help a giant lion, but in the end, he also agreed that you never know who's going to help you and what situation you might find yourself in. Hey, Jim, we got another package.
Wow, what's in there?
Well, it looks like we have some special paper again.
Ooh, nice.
And it looks like we also have some treats, like the banquet that we had.
Fantastic.
For our friends.
Great. All right, since we heard 2 stories about mice, I thought maybe we'd try to make some mice out of paper. This is called origami. Oh, we did that with the paper airplanes, you remember. So, we'll take one of our pieces of paper, and this one is already folded in half. So, surprise, that'll be the first thing that we do. We're going to fold it in half. So you took your square, and it doesn't really matter which way you hold it to start, like a diamond or like a square, either way, and fold it in half from point to point, like that. And I like to use my fingernail and drag it along to make a nice tight crease. Or if you don't have a good fingernail, you can put it down on a table and use a pencil, a pen, whatever you've got, and just drag it along the crease like that. Okay? So, you've got your diamond or square, you've got your crease. Now, we're going to do it the opposite way and fold it in half again, like this. The hardest part is trying to line up all the edges so they're pretty much nice and together, nice and straight. But, you know, it's never perfect, so just do your best. Okay, and then I'll use my fingernail. Okay, so if we open it back up again, now we've got like a big X, 2 creases. Okay. Well, let's turn it that way. And now the next fold we're going to do, if you've ever flown a kite, you know it has a certain shape. And we're going to start to make this look like a kite. And we're going to do that by folding this edge, this side, into the middle, like this. We're going to make it come to that middle crease, like that. So I have to put this down on the table to finish it. Okay, there's one side. Now we'll do the other side and make it look just like this side. So bring it over to the middle. And the paper wants to fight you a little bit. That's just the paper being the paper. That's okay. You'll get used to it. Okay. Okay. Now you see what I mean. This is the shape of a kite, if you've ever flown a kite. Okay, great. You did that part. Now we're going to open it up and undo it, like that. And let's go ahead and turn the whole thing upside down. And guess what? We're going to make those kite folds again, going in the opposite direction. Okay? So again, once you make a crease and fold it, the paper wants to bend that way, so you just have to be a little careful, and it's going to make it maybe a little bit more challenging, but you'll figure out how to do it. Okay, so once again, into the middle crease. Okay? Alrighty. There's one side. Now I'll do the other side the same way. And actually, we're almost done. See, I'm going to do two different versions of this mouse, this origami mouse. And this is the easier one. And then after this, we'll do a harder one. Okay. So now you have that kite design again. Now comes the hardest part, and this is almost the last part. So when you look at your paper, you'll see that, like, let's say on this side, if you kind of open it a little bit and push with your finger on this edge right here, actually, you know what? Let me draw some of the creases so you maybe get a better idea of what I'm doing. So I'm going to trace the creases so you can see where they are a little bit better. Okay. All right, so again, if you open this, this is called a tab. This area right here is called a tab. If you lift up this tab a little bit and take your finger and push on this edge, you'll see that you can push it in like that and flatten it. You see what you did? You make like a little point in there. This is a little tricky. It takes a little practice. Okay? Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. See this edge? Again, I'm going to lift up the tab and just start to gently push it inside, like fold it inside. And if you made really good creases, the paper will almost want to do it on its own when you start to push on it. Okay, did you do that? Do you see you have new points on the inside now? Okay, we're almost done. So now, these little points on the inside, they can be the ears for our mouse, and if we just fold them forward a little bit, they stick up. Okay, and then on the back side, and it's pretty much the same on both sides, so it doesn't matter which side is the head and which is the tail. But I'll go ahead and make this side the tail. So if I take, and just fold it down a little bit, doesn't really matter how much. This will be the tail part. Okay, and then fold it back up. Now you can see there's something happening here. It's starting to look like a mouse. And I'm going to go ahead and draw like the nose and some eyes on here to make it just a little bit more convincing that it's a mouse. And with your mouse, you can draw on it, make eyes, whiskers, a nose, whatever you like. It's your mouse. Whatever looks good to you. And there's our simple mouse.
So we did a lot of things today, didn't we? We did some clapping games and some verses, and we learned a new clapping game called
Mochitsuki.
Mochitsuki. And next time, because it's a little bit tricky, we're going to learn the second part to go along with the first part, and then after that we'll learn the third part. So keep tuning in. I think it's going to be really fun. We also today remembered our friend Katherine Johnson and how she helped astronauts get to the moon by using her math skills. And we learned about we had three new stories that were Aesop's fables. And today we met Paris and his new friends, Vicki, Freddy, and Sue Ellen. we also learned how to make mice out of paper, which is not an easy thing, but it's a lot of fun. So we can't wait to see you next time when we'll talk about some new stories about some important feelings.
Finish our clapping game.
We're going to finish our clapping game. We're going to learn the second part, and we're going to eventually learn the third part too. And we're going to do some more verses. So we'll see you next time.